chumash, so I have to do it by heart.
Chumash.
It's okay. No, I don't need. It's maybe get a chumash. Yes, it's v'hoya Eqev tishmun. That's how the parasha begins. So it's very interesting when the word Eqev. What does the word Eqev mean?
Heel.
Heel. Which one of the fathers? His name Yaakov. Yaakov was called because he was holding on to the heel of Esau. So v'hoya Eqev tishmun. Rashi says that the mitzvos that people trample upon, they don't do it, they're not so careful about it.
Eqev is what? Heel?
Heel, like you walk, the bottom of your foot.
Heel.
Heel.
Kabluk.
So it says, V'hoya Eqev tishma'un, if you follow the mitzvos, you do the mitzvos that most people don't do. That doesn't have Rashi in it, that chumash. So that won't help. Right? So that's V'hoya Eqev tishma'un. Now, then the Torah goes on. The Torah goes on, and it starts recording all the reward you get for doing the mitzvahs. I'm going to give you food, I'm going to give you water, you're going to have children. There's a whole list of things that is the reward for the Torah, for the mitzvahs that you do. The problem with that is that we have a rule that the Gemara says, Schar mitzvah b'hai amol leka. There's no reward for mitzvahs in this world. That means when you do a mitzvah, where do you get the reward for the mitzvah? In the next world, not in this world. Where do we learn this out from? The last pasuk of last week was Chanor. The very last pasuk. See, that's where the Hannah Chumash. Okay.
From last Eqev?
The very last pasuk of Boaz Chanor. Right? The very last pasuk of Boaz Chanor. You know, it says.
Last week Parasha was.
Last week's Parasha
before.
was Boaz Chanor was the week before Eqev. Okay? It says, "V'shomarta es ha-mitzvah." You should do the mitzvos. V'es ha-chukim v'es ha-mishpatim. The chukim and the mishpatim. Asher anochi mitzavcha hayom la'asosam. That I command you today to do them. Okay? Hayom la'asosam. So Rashi, so the Gemara says, it's actually Gemara in Eruvin. Omer Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Ma diksiv asher anochi mitzavcha hayom la'asosam. What does it mean that I command you today to do them? Hayom la'asosam. You do the mitzvahs today. You can't do the mitzvahs tomorrow. I mean, after a person passes away, can he do any more mitzvahs? No. Hayom la'asosa. Today you do the mitzvahs. And you receive the reward tomorrow. So the problem is as follows. That we just learned last week that the reward for mitzvahs all take place in Olam Haba. Yet it says here, if you do the mitzvahs, I will love you, I will bless you, I'll multiply you, I'll bless the fruits of your tree, of your land, your wheat, your wine, your sheep, your animals. You'll be blessed from all the nations. I will take away all the illnesses that you knew in Egypt. How could it list all these rewards, schar, for doing mitzvos, if there's no reward for mitzvos in this world? So what would you say the answer is? The Chidah asked this question. You know who the Chidah is? Good. I always tell you it's a nice Ashkenazi Pirush. The Chidah says something very interesting. He says there's no reward for the mitzvah that you do. But how you do the mitzvah, that Hashem rewards you. That means if you do the mitzvah with excitement, with enthusiasm,
Get more reward.
that's the reward Hashem gives you here. Because who supplies the enthusiasm? You do. So Hashem can reward you for it. It's a fascinating answer. That means when you get up in the morning, and you go to shul, and you put on your tefillin, and you're exhausted, and you're tired, and half asleep, and you say to yourself, boy, it was such a rainy day out there, I'd rather have stayed home in bed. You got the reward for putting on the tefillin, but you have no reward for the enthusiasm. But if you go ahead and you do it with excitement, with enthusiasm, that you bring to the table. If you bring it to the table, that Hashem says, I reward you in this world. That's what the Chita answers. It's a fascinating answer. It's a very interesting answer. The Levush says something different. He says, there's no reward for the big mitzvahs, but the small mitzvahs that people don't seem to do, that Hashem says, thank you for doing that mitzvah, I'll reward you. I'll give you an example on a little bit of a different scale. The mitzvah of tzitzis, is that a mitzvah you have to do? No.
No, this is for garment.
If you wear a garment with 4 corners, you got to put on tzitzit. So Hashem says you don't have to do this mitzvah. What do? You go ahead, you go to the store, and you buy a garment with 4 corners, and you put tzitzit on. That you get reward in this world. Because you didn't have to do the mitzvah. Give you another example. You buy an esrog. So you go to the store, on the table, there's esrogs for $40, all kosher. What's that table? Well, those are nicer ones. Those are $80, $100. Now, the rule is, if I want to make a mitzvah nicer, I don't have to spend more than 20%. So on a $40 esrog, I can go up to $50 legitimately, according to the Gemara. But I just bought an esrog for $100. That you get reward in this world. Because I went above what I had to, I did that. The Torah didn't tell me I had to do it. Hashem didn't tell me I had to do it. I did that. Therefore, if I did that, that comes to me. The Arizal says that the word Shabbos comes from the Roshei Tevos, Biyomo Titein Tzchoro. Hashem has to pay you today. And he brings down from the Lev Aryeh on Chulin, very interesting. The Jews were in Egypt. Hashem says they have no mitzvot for me to redeem them. They don't have enough zchuyot. They have no merit. So Hashem gave them 2 mitzvos to do, and that was going to give a zchut to redeem them. What were the 2 mitzvos that Hashem gave them in Egypt?
Shabbat.
No, that already they did, you're right. Brit Milah, they all did Brit Milah, and the Korban Pesach. Why those 2 mitzvot? Because those are the only 2 mitzvot, positive mitzvot, that if you don't do them, you're chayav koreit. So if there's a punishment for the mitzvah in this world, Hashem has to reward you for the mitzvah in this world. So Moshe gave them 2 mitzvos. The mitzvah of Korban Pesach and the mitzvah of Brit Milah, in order to reward them, because since those mitzvahs, if you don't do them, you get a punishment. If you don't put on tefillin, what's the punishment? You don't get the mitzvah. There's no punishment. So if there's no punishment, the reward is in the next world. But these 2 mitzvot, if you don't do them, there's a punishment, therefore the reward is in this world. The Oznaim Lator, Rav Zalman Saroskan, gives a very interesting answer. He brings down from Rabbi Lazer Gordon, who was the Av Beit Din in the city of Telz, and eventually became the Rosh Yeshiva. And I mentioned a few weeks ago how he was on his way to London to collect money, and he died in London. I told you that story. He says, every mitzvah you do has 2 parts to it. The mitzvah, that the reward is in the next world. But there's another part of the mitzvah. What you do to bring others to do the mitzvah as well. Right? You're going to the hospital to visit somebody, and your friend says, hey, can I come with you since you're going anyway? You say, sure. Now you get the mitzvah for Bikur Cholim, and you get the mitzvah for helping your friend do the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim. So he says, there's the mitzvah itself, and there's the mitzvah of having others. You go to shul and you daven. And you daven so nicely, you don't talk during davening, so the people sitting next to you also daven nicely and don't talk during davening. Now you get the reward for your davening. That's in the next world. But for helping the people next to you daven without talking, that's the reward you get in this world. That's what the Oznaim Torah says. It's very interesting.
I have a question about this.
Yes.
But, sometimes when I daven here and I tend to raise my voice a little bit, the governor would say shh, shh, because
Well, that's because, sometimes He doesn't want you disturbing the people next to you. So you gotta
So what do I do? Do I do I say silently? What do I do?
a little silently, and you move to the back of the shul where you're not disturbing anybody. Okay.
So it's better to do it silently, right?
A little bit. Okay, a few more important things. It says, okay, we have the famous pasuk over here. It says over here, Paraches, pasuk gimel. Let's see, Paraches, pasuk gimel. It says, Vaya'ancho vayarivecho. He oppressed you, you were hungry. Vayachilchos hamon, and Hashem gave you the mon. Asher lo yadata v'lo yodun avosecho. And people complained bitterly about the man. They were always complaining about the man. Even though the man was great, it was a packaged meal. It could be whatever you wanted it to be. So today you could have lasagna, tomorrow you could have a steak, afterwards you could have macaroni and cheese, you could have a shawarma, you could have a pizza. So why did people complain so much? On top of that, there's a medrash. It talks about the man, so the Chidah brings down a medrash. From here we see that there's a mitzvah to light Shabbos candles. So the Chidah says, what's the connection between Shabbos candles and the man? So the Chidah says something very interesting based on a Rambam. The Rambam brings it down from a Gemara. He says that a blind person doesn't enjoy often the food he eats. Why not? Because even though he can taste the food, what can he not do? See the food. And when you don't see the food, part of the enjoyment of eating a pizza is seeing the pizza. Eating the steak is seeing the steak. He says they had this man. It had whatever flavor you wanted, but it always looked the same. And after a while, people just didn't enjoy it anymore. They used to have drinks. It was a clear drink, but if you drank it, it tasted like black cherry or Coke or root beer. It had a name on the front, but it was always clear. So it always looked the same. It never got off the ground because people like to see the Coke fizzle as a Coke. They like to see the dark Coke. And black cherry, they like to see not just the taste, but they want to see the product. So the Chidah says that's why they complained about the man. It tasted like whatever you wanted. But it's not the same. Barbecue, part of the enjoyment of the barbecue is to watch the food on the barbecue and smell it and enjoy it. He says that's why we light Shabbos candles. Because Shabbos candles helps us see the food we eat. And that gives us greater pleasure on Shabbos. So it's very interesting. Someone called me up, they were in the hospital for Shabbos, and the hospital doesn't let them light candles. So what should they do about Shabbos candles? What would you say?
Turn on the light.
Turn on a light. If they turn on a light, the Kavod Shabbos, it could be a light in the room or in the hallway or maybe in the bathroom. As long as they turn on a light, maybe they don't make a bracha, lahadik ner shel Shabbos, but they're yotzei the Shabbat candles. I have that very often, amongst Ashkenazim, if a woman forgets to light Shabbos candles, she has to add a candle next week, for the rest of her life. And women don't like to do that. They don't like to have extra candles. It raises questions. So I said to one of the ladies, I says, tell me something. When you were preparing for Shabbos, what did you do? Well, I was running around the house. I was putting away the dishes. I turned on the living room light. I turned on the dining room light. Oh, you turned on lights. You lit Shabbos candles. So it's not that you forgot. You didn't make a bracha maybe, but you didn't forget. So that's correct. That's what we'll do. Okay, next. It says, V'achalta v'sovota uveirachta. You should eat, be satisfied, and make a bracha. This is the one bracha that's from the Torah, Birkat Hamazon. Now, Rabbi Yitzchak Varka, one of the Hasidic rabbis, he had a man in his congregation who was very wealthy. But this man, even though he was very wealthy, always used to eat very little food. He didn't want to show off how wealthy he was. He always had very simple lunches and suppers. And the Hasidic rabbi calls him in and starts telling him, you're making a big mistake. You have to have a big meal for lunch and supper. He says, why? He says, I'll tell you why. If you eat very little, then when a poor man comes, you will think that the poor man should even eat less than you. No one can live like that. So a rich man should eat a nice meal. This way, when a poor man comes, at least to give the poor man a smaller meal. But you have to have a big meal to give a smaller meal. If all you eat is a smaller meal, what are you going to give the poor man? Nothing. So he says, you're not doing your job. Hashem made you rich in order for you to appreciate food, so you can appreciate giving someone else. They bring down a story from the Bava Rebbe, a very interesting story. The Bava Rebbe had a very wealthy man whose business was going bad. And he comes to the Rebbe and he says, I don't understand it. I do everything the Torah wants. Why is my business going bad? So the Rebbe says, did you make any changes in your life? He says, no, everything's the same, except my wife went on a diet. She went on a diet? What kind of a diet? A no-carb diet. So what does that mean? He says, well, we don't eat any bread during the week, only on Shabbat. And before, I used to eat bread every day. So he says, that's why you're losing money. Because when you eat bread every day, you do Birkat HaMazon. Birkat HaMazon is a bracha for Parasha. Now, because of the diet, you cut out the Birkat HaMazon all week, so of course you're losing Parasha. He says, do me a favor, go off the diet. That's what he says, go off the diet.
Yeah, but little bread, so little.
A little bit, or eat a little bit of bread and do Birkat HaMazon. Find some type of compromise. Okay. Famous pasuk. It says, Eretz, a land, asher lo b'miskenu tocha bo lechem. It's not difficult to eat bread. Lo techzer kol bo, you don't miss anything. Eretz, a land, asher avoneha barzel. The stones are metal. Umahareha, and the mountains, taxov nechoshes, you can dig out copper. Eretz Yisrael is a funny land. When it's in the hands of the Jews, it produces very nicely. When it's in the hands of the non-Jews, nothing grows. The Gemara says something different. The Gemara says a land whose rocks are metal. So it's a Gemara in Tainus. Omar Rabbi Abba. Kol Talmud Chacham she'einu kosher kabarzel. Any Talmud Chacham who's not tough like iron. Eino Talmud Chacham is not a Talmud Chacham. Shenemar Eretz Asher Avoneha Barzel, a land whose rocks are metal. Al Tikri Avoneh, don't read the word as rocks. Elaboneh, the builders. Who builds the land? The Torah, the Talmid Chachamim. The problem is there's another Gemara. The Gemara says that when you conduct your life, you should always be soft, like a reed, and not strict like a cedar tree. Because if a wind comes and blows a reed, what will the reed do? The reed bends and flows with the wind. But a cedar tree, these big trees, when the winds come, what happens? They come crashing down, and they destroy power lines and houses, etc. So what's a Talmud Chacham supposed to be? Is he supposed to be soft, like a reed blowing in the wind? Or is he supposed to be tough as iron? What's it supposed to be?
Between?
So the answer is it depends. When he's dealing with the people in the community, he's supposed to be easygoing, he's supposed to be soft. But when it comes to a halachic decision, and he has to make the tough choices, then when it comes to defend the Torah, he's supposed to be like iron. Okay? So it depends what their purpose is. That's what the Torah Tamima says. The Torah Tamima says when it comes to halacha, when it comes to protecting the Torah, when it comes to doing what's right, rabbis cannot be wishy-washy. They got to be straight, they got to be strong, they got to be firm. But when
It says also that when the Beis Mikdash was destroyed, the Chomad HaBarzel,
that is correct.
and there was destruction after the first and second temple, there was an iron wall standing between the people here in the Shamayim and the people living in the earth.
And it wasn't good.
It was not good. And Ben Ishai says Barzel, the iron means that it's Rashi Devot for the Imahot.
Yes, I saw that. I have it down over here in my notes. That it has the first letters spell Ovot, and then Barzel spells Bilha, Rachel, Rivka, and Zilpah and Leah. No Sarah.
No, sir. So in order to break the barzel, that person has to do tikkun chatzot, tikkun leah, tikkun rachel, according to the Arizal.
Okay. Next, you ready? Listen to this. Tell me what my question is going to be. I'm going to read you the pasuk, and you tell me what the question is, okay?
Rashi?
No. Just the pasuk.
Okay.
Okay? I'm going to read you 2 or 3 psukim, and you tell me what the question is. Okay? And then once you tell me the question, I will try to tell you the answers to the question. But I want you to tell me the question. Actually, I thought I photocopied the psukim as well, but I don't see them over here. Okay, let's go. Perek Yud Aleph. It says, "V'yahavtas Hashem Elokecha," you should love Hashem your God. And then Moshe goes over a lot of the history of the Jewish people. He says, all the signs and wonders that I showed you in Egypt against Paro and his people. And what Hashem did to the Egyptian army, to its horses and its chariots, that he drowned them in the sea and destroyed them. And Vasher also lechem ba'midbar. And remember all the things that happened in the desert until we got here today. Go back, think about the last 40 years, all the things Hashem did for you. Pasuk Vov. This is the pasuk. You ready? Va'asher also ledosan va'aviram b'nei Eliyav ben Ruvain. Remember what Hashem did to Dasan and Aviram, the children of Eliyav, the son of Ruvain. Asher potza oretz espiyah, the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them and their houses and their tents and all their children. Remember that. You have seen with your own eyes the great wonders and miracles of Hashem. And it goes on and on. What's the question?
Why doesn't it mention Korah?
First Korah.
Was Dosan va'aviram the head of the rebellion? No. Who was the head of the rebellion?
Korah.
Korach. Why is Moshe doesn't mention Korach at all? Why doesn't he mention Korach at all? Interesting, fascinating question. So, I did some research, and I have some answers here. I have some answers. So what is it, why doesn't it mention Korach? So one answer is that the children of Korach did teshuvah. So they were still there, they were alive.
But Korah himself.
Korach himself was not. By Dasan va'aviram, everybody was gone. They died, their wives, their children, everybody died. So there was no one there. Their whole family was wiped out. So when Moshe wants to bring down the story, he brings down the story mentioning Dasan va'aviram, but doesn't mention Korach because the children were there. Okay, that's a fascinating answer. It's a very fascinating answer. The other one is that one of the other Meforshim say, Korach, why did he start up with Moshe? Because he thought he should be the Kohen Gadol. He was wrong. But at least he had a reason. Why did Dasan va'aviram start up with Moshe?
No reason they just wanted to do it.
Because they were troublemakers. That's all. Moshe was not saying here, I want you to remember what happened to Korach, because there'll always be people who start an argument because they think they're right. We have to deal with such people. But in every argument, there's also going to be people who have no claim, no part. Why are they there? Because they like fights. They like machloket. Those are the people Moshe says, remember, have nothing to do with them.
So what do you do with these people?
Well, Moshe had a very convenient solution. The earth opened up and swallowed them. We don't always have those solutions.
We have to deal with them?
We have to deal with them. The Or HaChaim HaKadosh, he says something very, very interesting. He says, when Korach decided that he wanted to take Moshe on, he went to Dasan va'aviram and he spoke to a lot of people. If they would have been good friends of his, what would they have advised him? Don't do it. He says, it says, Aseh l'charav, everybody should have some type of a rov to follow, and knei l'chachaver, it's important to have a good friend. They believe that the only reason why Korach did what he did was because Dasan va'aviram egged him on and says, yeah, that Moshe is no good. Come on, we'll help him. Do it. Therefore, if you're not sure, you're basically a good guy, and you have a friend, or a so-called friend, who pushes you to do all the wrong thing, who's the real villain? the friend, Dosan Va'aviram, not Korach. That means the Torah, after the fact, when it analyzes what happened, the Torah says Korach was wrong, but you know what? He would not have done what he did if not for these two guys who pushed him. Therefore, these two guys are worse than Korach. Okay. The Yaznaim La Torah gives a different answer, a very pretty answer, a very nice answer. The Torah goes through and says, remember what happened to Egypt. Remember what Dosan Va'aviram did. When they were in the desert, Dosan Va'aviram kept telling the people, what should we be doing? Go back to Egypt. Right? Why? Very simple. Paro's gone. His army's gone. Everybody's gone. We could march right back into Egypt. What's left behind? Women and children. We could take control of the whole country. We know the land, we know the business, we know the industry. We could rule Egypt. No one to stop us. All the soldiers are dead. Who's left? Old men, young children, and a bunch of women. We can run the whole country. That was what Dosan Va'aviram said. What did Moshe say? No, we're not going back to Egypt. We're going to go to Eretz Yisrael. What did Dosan Va'aviram say? What? Who wants to go to Israel? There are 31 nations there. There are giants there. Why should we go to a country that is strong and fortified, that we're going to have to battle with and fight wars? Egypt. Let's go back. Let's go back. Korach never said that. The Yaznaim Torah says Korach was against Moshe because he felt he should have been the Kohen Gadol. Never once did Korach say to Moshe, why are we going to Israel? I don't want to go to Israel. I want to go back to Egypt. Korach never said that. Dosan Va'aviram did all the time, not Korach. So he says, Moshe was saying to them, remember what Dosan Va'aviram did. They were against everything. They were against the Torah, they were against Hashem, they were against Eretz Yisrael. That's why he says to remember them. Korach made a mistake. But he loved Israel. He never spoke out against Eretz Yisrael. What were you going to say?
He fell to the ground. I feel bad for him now.
You feel bad for him? Well,
He went.
Tzaddik Katom or Yifrach, eventually Korach will be looked upon as a tzaddik, has the letters Korach inside. There's a pasuk. The Korach is not
Did he
the
say to Moshe, lama titnasu et kahal hazeh?
Loma Nasu, he said yes. But that's because after the Meraglim, Korach's argument was, we have to spend 40 years in the desert. Let me take over. I'll bring them into Israel. I can do better.
And that was his...
Dosan Va'aviram was saying is, we're not going to Israel anyway, let's go back to Egypt. But not Korach. Korach never said that. Korach said, you couldn't get the job done. You couldn't bring him into Israel. Let me try. Maybe I can do better.
What he said, Lama, what means?
Lama titnasu is a word of why have you put yourself in charge? Maybe it's time to resign. Korach's argument was, you put yourself in charge, and the whole goal was to go to Israel, and now we just heard the news that we're going to be 40 years in the desert. So you couldn't do the job, right? If you can't do the job, maybe you should retire and let someone else do the job. He wasn't the first guy who said this. Nota Va'avihu said the same thing. They would walk behind Moshe and Aaron and they would whisper, when are these old guys going to kick the bucket so we can take over and really do the job right? You know, it's a common theme. You know, there are many young people who say, you know, I don't understand the older generation, you know, the Gedolim and the Rosh Yeshivas, you know, when they're gone, bless you, we'll take over, we can do a better job. It's a common theme, you know, people say this all the time. I hear it from my kids. I'm just joking with you. It says as follows, a very interesting pasuk. Eretz asher Hashem Elokecha doresh osa, the land which Hashem looks after. Tamid einei Hashem Elokecha bo. Always the eyes of Hashem is watching it. Mereishis Hashana, from the beginning of the year. The word Reishis is normally spelled with the letter Aleph in there. This has no Aleph in it. So if you mix up the letters, Reishit spells Tishrei. Hashem looks from Tishrei ad achari shana, until the end of the year. That means on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem decides the future of what happens from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Now it's interesting. The Satmar Rebbe says something very interesting. He says, Mireshis, in the beginning, she and her phone. Maybe I should turn it off.
Дайте, Rabbi, пусть выключит звук. А то кроме вас здесь никто телефон не имеет. Каждый раз.
Mireshis, in the beginning, Hashanah. Everybody says this is going to be the year. Persons in Shul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, they're davening, they're saying to themselves, this is going to be my year. Hashanah means the year. This is going to be the year. But by the time you get to the end of the year and you look back, you know what you say? Shana. It was just a regular year like any other year. That's what the Satmar Rebbe says. Everybody starts hoping the year is going to be something extra special, unique, different. And by the time they get to the end of the year, they look back and they say, wow, the whole year went by and nothing has changed. It's just another year. And when a person goes through the year and realizes that it's just another year, it's disappointing, he says, because everybody has high hopes at the beginning of the year. You know, the Goyim have that on New Year's, right? On New Year's they make all these resolutions.
Yeah.
This year, the year 2017 is going to be different, right? And
I'm
in
gonna
the
join
end,
the gym.
what?
I'm gonna join the gym.
Yeah, I'm going to join the gym, I'm going to take a diet,
For 1 week.
you know, or the government of the United States, you know, you look at, you know, we've had the election and we started 2017. This is going to be the year of all the changes. And what have we seen so far?
Nothing.
Chaos. Real chaos. I mean, it's really, it's shocking. It's shocking. You know, the whole objective was to run the government like a business. You know, you would think like you run a multi-million-dollar business. It's called well-oiled. Everybody does their job. You don't fire people left, right, and center. You don't have leaks and probes and investigations. You know, you can't get anything done. Everybody's so distracted with nothing, with garbage, that the job at hand, the changes, the real changes that you want, you know, to drain the sewer, as they called it, it's not happening because people are distracted. And you can't be distracted. You got to be focused. When you want to accomplish something, you got to be focused. Okay, sorry I came late. It's already 9:30. The traffic out there was horrible on the LIE. There's nothing I could do about that.
It's okay.
Just sit
We can
and
stay another 15
yeah, but I can't. I got people coming.
I'm kidding.
Okay, but next week I'm working already on Parshas Re'eh. A lot of interesting things about Parshas Re'eh. And you know, these weeks in the summer, very often the yeshivas are closed and people are away, and so there's not that many shiurim. But in Mirza Hashem, next week we're going to get into Parshas Re'eh. We have the whole concept of the mitzvah of tzedakah, aser to aser, how to give tzedakah, where to give tzedakah. You know that. It says over here in Parshas Re'eh, they have many psukim about not eating blood. You know, if you think about it, it says, it's just fascinating. It says over here, what does it say? It brings down here, look what it says. But when you know, rock, he says, chazak, you have to be very strong. Levilti achol hadam, not to eat blood. Do you like eating blood?
No.
No, we're not vampires. We're not cannibals. And yet the Torah says, Rach chazak, you gotta be very strong. What? Ki adam hu ha-nefesh, v'lo sochal ha-nefesh im ha-bosar. Then it says again, lo tochlena, don't eat it. Spill it to the ground. Then it says again, lo tochlena. I mean, come on. 3 times it tells me not to eat blood. I wasn't going to even eat blood the first time. And Rashi goes on to it. Chazak, you know, shehoy shtufim badam. They love that blood, he says Rashi. La'ochlo, they wanted to eat it as much. They were drinking it like it was tomato juice. Lefika chusuk lomar chazak. Therefore, they had to tell you, no, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So next week, we're going to talk about what was this fetish about blood. Next week, we're going to have to figure out what those Rashis are
To
all
be
about.
continued.
To be continued.